What's up, everybody? It's your favorite Knights of the Old Republic's favorite nerd. Today we are looking at Obi Wan, Snowtrooper, and Darth Revan from the latest Black Series wave, which I got courtesy of Crashbox. That guy's like my pimp nowadays, but that's neither here nor there.
Can you give the girls a couple dollars for lunch?
Look, I'd like to, but Chris says he needs his money today. Look, he says he's not playing this time. It's out of my hands. Let's get into the review. Let's get into these figures. They're pretty good, just spoilers. So let's start with the Snowtrooper, because I know everybody wants to see the other two. So you gotta sit through this one or skip ahead with your little finger at the little bar down here. Oh, it went too far. Oh, it didn't go far enough. Just sit through it. It'll be fine. We'll get through it. He comes with 3 accessories, these 2 guns, and this backpack. Tons of paint on this backpack. We got Tampo paint. We got the gray and the red and the black, and then this gray. They didn't finish this gray throughout. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little fuzzy down there, but I think it's good enough ultimately, especially with how much detail is on this thing. So kudos to them for that. And then that plugs into the back. No fuss, no muss. I think it's that way, right? It's not that way. I don't know. I may have to get my Googles on. Either way, you can do it either way. And then we have 2 guns, one for each of you, of course. The more rifle with a heavy-handed dry wash, which looks, not dry wash. What am I talking about? Dry brush, which looks pretty good down in here. Gets a little sloppy slop up in there. But it is interesting. Well, this is stuff they used to do all the time, and we haven't seen them do it a whole lot recently. So it's nice to see them get back to that. But what's also interesting is that they didn't do anything to this. You know, they painted a little bit of silver here, and then they bent it for me. But aside from that, like, you would think they would just dry brush both. You would think they would come, like, you know, together, and they would just hit them both and keep it moving. But as a result, they look very mismatched, which makes it look very awkward. But I've only planned on using one anyway. He looks ridiculous holding both. Doesn't look practical. Let's talk about him. Love the head sculpt. I think it works great. Black paint on there is sharp. We got a couple little smudges on the white. It's an individual results will vary thing, but the sculpt itself looks great. Articulation does suffer, as you would expect. You can kind of, it's on a ball hinge. You can get down to there, and then up to there, and then a swivel. So it's okay, but it's certainly not spectacular in the articulation department. For the chest details, we got the orangish reddish paint. I'm imagining that's supposed to be red, but it's much closer to an orange, and then the black paint. But it all is done pretty well. And then that piece is on a ball joint. And then what's nice about it is this front armor piece hides the seam, so it's really quite well executed. For the shoulders, they're on disc hinges, as we've come to expect. They are intercut, as we've kind of also come to expect, which, I don't know. It does make it look a little strange at some angles, but I think at most angles it gives it a more realistic look. Either way, you get them up to here, down to here, and then the swivel all the way around. This piece is a glued-on piece on top, and it doesn't get in the way whatsoever, so that's nice. No paint, but it is nice sculpted wrinkles and stuff. I dig all that kind of stuff. Single hinged elbow with a swivel, so that counteracts as a bicep swivel, and then you can get it to 90 degrees. And then we have the extra armor piece once again glued on, and it looks like it's glued onto the wrist. Maybe it's also actually that might be, yeah, that's sculpted. Never mind, disregard last. And then it's a trigger finger hand, and the hinge is up and down, so that's thoughtful and it's nice, and I like it. And you get the swivel as well, so no issues there. And then the extra guard on the arm. Same for the other side. It is a slight trigger finger hand over here, but it's not enough to hold a trigger like in the trigger guard. So it's probably better used to kind of just hold the other end of this rifle. All right, we got this floating piece, nice white paint on there, and silver paint that's all done well, and then white and silver paint on the back, and that's done well for the kind of trench coat look. Signature look. T-jointed ball joints for hips. This soft plastic does get in the way of articulation, so you don't really get much out beyond there. And then you get forward to there and back. Thigh swivel. Double jointed knee, but once again, this bit of business gets in the way. But it does get you a nice range. You just only can use it within the confines of what this allows you to do. This does have a nice, it looks like an airbrush hit of paint down at the bottom to get that dirt effect at the bottom, and that's nice. But I think this might have benefited from a soft goods down at the bottom, but it might have been hard to match, so I can appreciate it either way. Nice white paint on the knee pads, and the sculpted pants look great, especially down at the bottom. One problem is at the bottom that you get some of the paint from the boots onto the pants. However, the nice or the thing that's not so hateful about it is this color of the boots is looks like a dirt almost. So dirt up on the pants doesn't really bother you that much. This paint, the way they did it is a heavy-handed dry brush. So like so what dry brushing does is it hits the high points of the sculpt and it leaves the recessed areas untouched. Now this works really well when you're going with lighter tones because the shadows sit naturally recessed and the paint brush hits and picks up on the higher ends of the sculpt. The problem is that they dry brush with a darker color, so you do get it to look cool around the boot in terms of like a dirty look and stuff. But up in here with the wrinkles and stuff, the wrinkles are a lighter shade than the outside. It won't really bother you, I don't think, all that much. And you can see they got really outside the lines there. I don't think it'll bother you all that much, but it is something that like once you start to think about it, you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Next up, we have Obi Wan. This is pretty good also. We got a couple things that we do need to talk about. We'll start with the accessory. It is hard to get it into his hand. I've got it in there, and I had to kind of, bend the fingers a bit to get it in there, so I'm not taking it out. But it is a nice blue translucent plastic. You know what I want, the white rod in the center with the blue translucent around, but no one's listening to me. Silver paint, gold paint on a black piece of plastic, and it looks good. So let's talk about the figure. Let's talk about this cloak. I think this is really well done. I think this is a nice soft goods accent. The one problem is the hood. Hoods are tricky. It looks absurd if you try to go all the way forward. If you try to pull it back, the back end of the hood, like you can see it would look good, but it doesn't really, you can't really get it to fold naturally to kind of make that happen as easily as you would like. And then it doesn't look, I guess that doesn't look hateful, but it doesn't look great. What I've had the most luck with is kind of just folding in the top bit of it, like the first maybe half inch of the hood, and then sort of sitting it on top, and even that isn't great. But I've messed with it and I've got it to look better than that. But whatever, something to mess around with, and you can always tuck it down and just have the face and the hair showing. And the nice thing is, it's probably their best face sculpt I've ever seen. It's tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous. Brilliant, beautiful face sculpt. It's the best Hasbro face sculpt I've ever seen. It's fantastic. The hair is all painted, as is the beard. And then the hair has some it looks, maybe it's, I think it's a slight wash on there as well. And then the eyes are painted white, and then the blue, and then the black eyelashes. You could probably throw a light, layer of wash on this skin tone and really bring out like all the skin folds and stuff. It's just, there's a lot of love here. It looks really good. The head itself is on a ball hinge, as we've come to expect, which gets you back to there, forward to there, and then the swivel, so that works fine. Alright, sorry about the cut, I actually forgot to go through this, so we'll get it done. Disc hinge, shoulders, as we've come to expect. You got this nice cutout here, so that should get you the arms at a very natural angle going down, and you have the cloak to hide the kind of the indentation, so no issues there. And then you get all the way up, down, and around, but of course you got to deal with the cloak. But the sculpt of the figure is fine. And then is that, let's just take a look. No, so single hinged elbow gets you about 90 degrees, and then has the bicep swivel, and then the wrist is swiveled. This hand hinges in and out, and this hand hinges in and out as well, and it's a melee weapon, so that's the best way to handle it. One thing we didn't talk about with the Snowtrooper is that this hand is hinged in and out, and this hand is hinged up and down. So that's the way to handle it. If you're going to do that sort of pose, and then if you're going to have a melee weapon, in and out is definitely the preferred way. It's best to have both, but if you're going to only do one, in and out is up and down rather. Oh, goodness gracious, I made up. In and out. The hinge moving, allowing the hand to move in and out this way is better than this. Usually. The sculpt of the robes and stuff looks great. Nice natural looking wrinkles. They did a really good job, like in folds and stuff. A little wash on there wouldn't have hurt, but it's still not hateful. Well, we'll talk about this. So there's a ball joint right at the waist. You can kind of see it. Actually, is that a double? No, it's a single. It's a long stem, so to speak. But you get a swivel out of it, and then you get good rotation. So I think that that's fair. And then for the bottom piece, this is a soft plastic on the front. It's a soft plastic on the back, and they do have the slit so you can get a little bit of articulation out of it. And then you got the brown paint added on and the gold or copper paint there in the center. All the stuff on it is all sculpted well, and it looks good, and it's painted clean. And then it has the hook here to hold the lightsaber. Once again, a light wash on those robes would have really brought out the depth. Underneath, we just have the pants. They're textured and they're wrinkled well as well. And the boots, which nothing is really added to, but because most of it is covered, I'm kind of okay with that. For articulation wise, they're T-jointed ball joints, and you can get a great range. More on this side because the pouch on this one, but a great range nonetheless. Front and back is a little bit more of an issue, but still not the worst. And you can push it if you want, but it starts to look ridiculous. And then you got the normal stuff: thigh swivel, double jointed knee, ankle tilt up just the slightest bit and down, and then the rocker is built in. So all that works really well. I know that everybody wants to see him with the others. I have the second half of this wave coming Thursday for a review, and we'll take a look. Because we'll have the proper G1, so to speak, for lack of a better term, cast, basically complete, at least in some representation. Lastly, Darth Revan from the video game Knights of the Old Republic. It is one of my favorite video games of all time. So I was really excited about getting this figure, but now if you're a fan of the EU, the expanded universe like I am, and you're a fan of Revan, you're a fan of Knights of the Old Republic, then you know that now you also need a Darth Malak to kind of complete that for you. The joints on this figure are great, but we're going to get to that here in a second. So let's talk about the accessories. This cloak does not come off, as a heads up. It is glued on. We'll talk about the problems that sort of creates. It's significant, but to me, it's worth the cost of admission. And then we have the cape, which is also permanent. It's a soft goods. That's the way to do capes. I'm glad that they're getting back to that. And then they have the little holes and stuff and rips along the bottom. The holes look a little too purposeful. They don't look natural, of course. But on a shelf, I don't think it'll bother you. Okay. So then he comes with two lightsabers. The purple one, unique sculpts for the hilts and stuff, so that's good. Painted silver, or the silver finish rather. And then the purple blade. You know how I feel about what we should be doing with blades by now. And then we have the silver here and the black ring, so that looks good as well on the red blade. The head sculpt is great. Once again, you can't remove the hood, so you're kind of locked in there. But you can get the head up a little bit and down a little bit, and then we have silver wear paint on the red. The red is painted on, the darker silver is painted on, and the black, I think, is the base color of the plastic. So very, very well done, and a good sculpt, good profile, good silhouette for this guy. It all works. So for the chest, it's this piece here where the ball joint is. It's like a diaphragm joint, and it's seamless. Like, you can't tell where that joint is looking at this. Maybe you look real closely, obviously, but you really can't tell. I think most people would think it would be down here along this line, but it's not, and you get a great range in the swivel. So I'm taken back by that. I think they did a great job. Good sculpt. We have this coral, shiny. I don't know if it's coral, whatever this is, almost like a peach. I don't know. It looks good. Silver paint there, gold paint on the buckle. It does get outside the lines a bit. That's an individual. Results will vary. And then this red paint on this piece, they probably could have given that a wash. It would have been even better. But pretty good. The shoulders, disc hinge, as we come to expect, get you up to 90 degrees, even with the sculpt the way it is. That works really well. And then forward to about 90 degrees, back to a little bit past 90 degrees. So that all works, I think, well enough. Single hinged elbow gets you 90 degrees. And then the swivel is in there as opposed to a bicep swivel. And then we have the wrist swivel and hinge up and down. Another melee weapon on this side, but the hinge is in and out. So Not my preferred way of doing business, but as long as I got one up and down, I'm good with it. And then we have that same sort of color here on the wrists, and that looks good, and on the hands. Little red and green painted on the lightsabers as well. Really, really, really well done. This piece down here is like this piece is a floating piece. It sits over top of this soft goods undercloak, and then all this is like a softer plastic, so it doesn't impede articulation. The joints on the legs feel great. Like they're not too tight. Like it's a very smooth tolerance joint. See if we can get up underneath this unit. T-jointed ball joints for hips. Get you out to there. It's not the best range, but not terrible. Forward to there with all that stuff. That's pretty impressive. And then back to here, which isn't much, but that's okay. Thigh swivel, double jointed knee, nice silver paint, nice sculpt work and all the wrinkles and such in the pants. Silver paint, that same coral paint for the straps on the boots, and then the ankles, you get a tilt that far up, that far back, and the rocker is built in. So I'm going to tell you, this is, and then the soft goods bit, I think we talked about that. That's like it goes all the way around. This is, a lot of people were excited about this Revan figure, and they can rest assured. It's pretty close to perfect, and it's, especially at its price point, is fantastic. Of course, the hard part is going to be finding him, but if you find him and you're a fan of the character or you're a fan of the mythos, as you will, of Star Wars, I definitely recommend picking him up. Final thoughts wise, I strongly recommend all three. I actually recommend the whole wave. This is some of the best stuff I've seen out of Star Wars Black Series in a long, long time. And it's good to see them get back to quality. We've got soft goods integrated. We have soft plastic integrated. We have mold. We have sculpt. We have paint. We have dry brushing. We have wash. We have all sorts of bells and whistles that I've become used to early on with this line that it seems like they're getting back to in the terms of philosophy, in terms of producing the line. And I think that it is welcomed. It's very welcomed on my end anyway. The problems, of course, are there. There's some articulation problems with the hips on the Snowtrooper. You know, he's going to be hard to get into some dynamic poses. There are issues regarding Obi Wan and his cloak and getting that to look and feel and drop kind of naturally, especially in the hood department. And there could definitely be a little bit more washes applied to those robes to kind of give them a more lived in and a more three-dimensional look. As for Revan, if his head could move left and right a little bit easier and a little bit smoother, you wouldn't hear a complaint out of me. I'm happy with the rest of it. So I hope that helps. If you find Revan, I definitely recommend you picking them up, but they're all good. I just know that Revan's going to be the hard one to get. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.